We want to welcome everyone to the JAMM Sessions. This is a show where we talk about real life problems, but also provisions to a better you. I'm your host, Juan Hathaway, alongside my man Mackenzie Mack and Trey. We call him Mo. We're the crew of the JAMM Session, and in each episode, we're going to dive into topics relating to fitness, finance, and faith. But we're going to be bringing on experts to talk about various topics, subtopics of those three categories. And we're just going to dig a little bit deeper into that later into the show. But I don't want to keep the people out here waiting. I want to introduce you to the guys who make up the JAMM Session. First, we're going to start off with my man, Jonathan McKenzie. We call him Mac.
What's up, everybody? How y'all doing? Just call me Mac. It's easy, it's quick, but I'm from the U.S. Virgin Islands, married, got 4 kids, currently serving in the United States military. I'm at 18 years right now. Looking forward to being on the next side. I can't wait. But hobbies, what's funny is that my hobbies are tied to Juan's hobbies. That's how we met, which is roughly 8 years ago, back at Fort Bragg, which is now Fort Liberty. We've been best friends ever since. Honestly, just through the love of combat sports, martial arts, and luckily I got sent down to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and we crossed paths again, and we still rocking ever since. So mainly this podcast it's been in the works for a very long time. We've talked about it just from our own conversations, but I think right now God is saying the time is now to just get the ball rolling and see what happens. At the end of the day, what I'm looking forward to is just sharing good information and good knowledge just to help people out, but also learning myself with other men. And that's mainly it. I'm looking forward to see what the future holds, and let's get it. I'm gonna pass it off to Big
Yeah,
Mo.
man. Yeah, man. Real quick, Mac, just tell the people one fun fact about you that the people don't know. We know you like combaters. I know that for a fact, like you said, that's how we met years ago. Just you was holding mitts for me, and we've been friends ever since then. But other than military, family, combat, you mentioned combatants rather. And what is one thing that we don't know, that fun fact about you?
Weird and funny. I'm actually an introvert, big time introvert. But and I say that's funny because I exhaust a lot of energy interacting with people. So
Yeah.
when people meet me, they think I'm not, but I'm actually a big time introvert, man. I'm very humble and reserved. But I don't know. God keep putting me in positions where I'm always speaking to people. So I guess he's working on me on that piece.
All right. We appreciate you, Mac. Next up on the list, we got my man. Me and this dude go back since fall back babies, man. We know each other for since kids. I call him Mo. His real name
years
is
back.
uh shit. Man, we've been I'm gonna let you tell him, Mo. We've been knowing each other for years, man. Like Mo,
Oh, man, we
but
put government,
ladies and gentlemen,
government out there.
no other than my man Trey Mosby. Mo, go ahead.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. I'm Trey. You can call me Mo of the Jam Session. And Dewan said we went way back. We've been friends for a long time, man. Dating back to high school. I gotta say, 25 years, if not longer. We've been friends. I think it's closer to 30. Now that I think about it, because in middle school, we knew each other in middle school, went to the same middle school. So,
Yeah.
with that being said, I got a lot of history to Juan. I've got a chance to see him grow. I got a chance to see him uh, become the man that he is today. We've been friends through thick and thin, a lot of trials and tribulations, and it's helped us develop into the relationship that we have. And that's why I think it's important during this series that we can share those experiences with other people to kind of help other people grow and kind of encourage one another, because when you're friends with somebody, there's a lot of growth in that section. Whether there's periods of time you talk every day, and there may be times that you talk maybe once or twice a week, or you might have to skip a month or so, but you still were friends. And a good friendship always circles back around and it picks up where it left off. And me and Dewan have always had that type of relationship from when we were in high school. A little bit about me. Dewan graduated, went to college. My path was different. My path was I had to start working. I was a working class citizen, man. When I worked everywhere, man. I worked in warehouses. I worked in a place called Stratus Boats, making boats, and that was not a fun job. I worked in the heat. I worked in the cold.
Pillsbury.
Worked in Pillsbury flipping biscuits. I've done just about anything imaginable to get a paycheck. I worked construction. I worked at a Miracle in a freezer all night, every night. And I worked for a temporary service. And so when you work for the temporary service, they didn't give you the uniform outfit that they gave the other workers. You had to go in there bundled up with your own jackets and sweatshirts and hoodies, and they gave you little cotton gloves, and it was freezing in there, man. So I've got a very extensive background. I did that, man, and then eventually I joined the military in my early 20s. And then that was a turning point for me. I never looked back doing that. And once I finished my military service, man, I started serving my community. I worked in law enforcement, and then after that, man, I went into the corporate world and started dabbling in business a little bit, and that's where I'm at today. So I think there's a lot that can be learned from my personal experiences, shared experiences through my friendships and relationships. And that's a little bit about Mo, man. So, Juan, back to you, back.
I appreciate that, Mo. No, that's both of you gentlemen have brought up some very valid points, and I'll touch on those a little bit later. But no, I'm one like both of these men said. I've been blessed to meet both of these guys throughout some points in my life. Like I said, met Trey since I was a child. Went through middle school, high school, still friends to adulthood. Met Mac when we was at Fort Bragg. Developed a friendship through a common interest, which was combatives, and that common interest has helped us sustain and kept each other encouraged all throughout these years, even through different relocations of bases and things like that. I mean, just a little bit about myself is, I mean, I've been an athlete my entire life, primarily football as a college football player. Went on to do a little bit of professional fighting and things like that. But primarily, my job is a strength coach full time. I'm an author. Have opportunities to do different speaking engagements at different levels, coached at different levels, all the way from college up to the pros and everything in between. But just like these guys said, our whole intent behind of starting this podcast is the three of us, like both of these guys said, we all went through different paths in life, but our struggles and our triumphs are need to be told to the world. So these two men were the two guys that popped in my head when the idea first sparked. There's been a lot of conversation amongst the three of us about starting a podcast, and like one of these guys said earlier, like the time is now. So we want to start off 2025 by putting this new podcast out, Jam Session, and what you get is just it's three different personalities that you get here, but it's three guys with the same common interest, which is we all aim to better ourselves, people, and our family. And all of that comes through learning from the struggles that we've been through, but also acknowledging the fact that even though we've had those struggles are what made us into who we are now. So we're gonna be transparent, we're gonna be transparent about who we are because I think people can adapt and relate to that better when you're more transparent and don't sugarcoat things. So that's just a little bit about myself. A fun fact about me is that let me see. I like to skateboard. I collect skateboards. I got a six one this Christmas. I got a big longboard that my family gave me. So I love to skate and things like that, longboard especially. But that's one of the things I like to do outside of my normal training and lifting weights and martial arts. Yeah, but that's it. That's who we are, man. Let's I want to kind of be just like an open discussion, but just let the people know like. We're gonna talk about this topic called success, and it don't matter who start, but I just want to know what does success mean to you guys.
I definitely think that's a lot to unpack there, man. But I'll go first. To me, I think it hits in different areas. For me, it's definitely spiritual because I am a follower of Christ. Finances, health, all those different spaces, physical health. Um, But for me, success is just being able to leave this earth and achieve the fullest potential in all those areas before it's my time to leave, and have the right people. And when I say the right people, the people that are in my circle witness it and be encouraged and do the same thing too as well. So for me, success is never me trying to achieve for myself, trying to go as far as I can in those different spaces. So um I can finish what I was put here to do, and then also encourage people around me to do the same as well.
Yeah.
That's success to me.
I know you touched on like having the right people in your circle. Like hit on that point just a little bit more. Like when you say right people in your circle, like touch on that. Like what does it mean? Because I think people fail to realize a lot of times that you can't keep everyone in your circle, and that includes like family. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's certain people when you're trying to achieve certain things that you can only keep in your circle. Go ahead and touch on that just a little bit. Mo, feel free to dive into that more too.
I said that because it took me a while to learn this, but we are social beings, yes, but we when we socialize with people, we have to use wisdom. This day and age, some people get too comfortable with just putting themselves around people that sound good, look good, has status and prestige, which is cool, but it's like um I feel you should be smart in the people that you interact with, because who you're around shapes and develop who you are.
Facts.
And I don't think we have time to waste with just being around random people or people who we think are cool or fun. Like I'm not that type of individual. I'm very careful with who's in my circle because, like I said, I'm on mission. I'm on pat every day, and it's crucial for me to not put myself in a position where I'm around people who will compromise what I'm here for.
Yeah.
So that just being wise and who you have in your circle, definitely.
Yeah. Nah, Mo, you got anything you want to carry out off that before I chime in?
You know what success means to me. I think success should be carried as an individual achievement. Your measure of success may not necessarily be my measure of success. And then there's things that we might see common ground on when you are successful. What does that look like? A, I got a good job. Two, I got a beautiful wife. Three, I have a lot of money in the bank, right? Those are things that we look at as in society socially successful. This person has a beautiful wife, great job, lots of money, drives a Lamborghini. All those things are viewed in society as success. And I think that sometimes is not the example we should be setting, because each day that we're blessed to wake up and we're able to feed ourselves, we're able to feed our families, we're able to put a roof over our head, we're able to pay our bills. I would say that's successful. But unfortunately, we overlook those small successes. And so you have to find people that feel that way, that have a likeness and a like mind to say, like, hey man, I'm blessed with an opportunity to be successful today because I'm doing something that there are millions of people around the world are not able to do. And that's just simply feed myself.
Yeah.
That is a level of success. And then you build off of that. So I'm a firm believer in taking those small successes and adding them up until you get to that big success. Because if you can't be successful in the small things, you definitely will not be successful in the large things. And unfortunately, we live in a society that everybody wants $1 million, but how can you have $1 million if you haven't been responsible with $100? So
Right. Right.
that stuff is important. So for me, success, I measure it daily. Going. I mean, because the advantage I have of being able to do that is when I worked in law enforcement, it gave me an opportunity to see a side of society that the average everyday person doesn't see, and not take for granted. Not get in a car wreck. You know what I mean? Having all of my bodily functions, uh, having my mental health and my physical health and my spiritual health intact. Um, Unfortunately, when you work in law enforcement, you get to see those elements, the negative part of that. You get to see people who are going through something. You get to see people who are suicidal. You get to see people who haven't eaten. They haven't been able to feed their kids in weeks, and they're on their last leg. So and they don't know what to do. They don't know who to turn to, and they're in a very dark place. So once I got an opportunity to experience those things and see those things, also I mix in my military experience, being deployed overseas and just kind of seeing those other countries, seeing how they live compared to an American lifestyle, the things we take for granted each and every day. I count all of that as being successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Going to work and making it home back each night. That was successful because it could have went left. Somewhere every day, man. And I think with society, man, we just take a lot of things for granted. And part of me wanting to be a part of this podcast is kind of point those things out to encourage people that don't always measure yourself to any type of professional athlete. What they don't measure yourself to that, because that's something different. We'll get into that at some point. But you're successful because you have an opportunity to get up, provide for your family, provide for yourself. You're staying in a place that has lights, running water, heat. You know what I mean? It's cold outside. And let me tell you, you want to be out there in the cold. I just slept out there in that field, eating them cold ass army food. It's freezing with that little blanket. I've done that, right? But there are also, the reality of it is there are people who are doing that tonight in the town that you're in right now. Somebody's
Yep.
outside in that weather. Somebody's
Yep.
sleeping in that weather. Somebody's trying to figure out what they're going to do in this rain and snowstorm. They say the snowstorm's coming through in the middle part of the country. So I don't take anything for granted, man. I just measure success differently. I take the small wins as I take the big ones. So that's just me.
No, I like that. And then I think one of the things like that both of you kind of touched up on is, and it is easy to get caught up into is comparing your success to someone else's. And I don't know if it was Mo or Mac. One of y'all says, well, I think it was Mo. It was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
no,
Mo hit
not
that.
say. You hit the nail on the coffin, because a lot of times I've been guilty of that. Is we look at our situations and where we want to be, and we're not there yet, and then we look at somebody else who's already there, and we like, dang, like, what am I doing wrong? But it's not what we're doing wrong. It's like you said, it's what we're doing right. Like little things, being grateful for the small wins and consistency. That's the key to, for me, I think is being successful is consistency and just gratitude. And that's something that I had to learn over the years, and just kind of look past about what everyone else is doing and just run my race. God made each of us different, and that's a fact that we can't change. That I'm different from Mo, I'm different from Mac, and y'all different from me. My race is different. Like I didn't do law enforcement or military like you two did. And Mo, I think you're the only one on here who's done law enforcement. So all our backgrounds are different, and we're running different races, but at the same time, like we're still finding a way to be successful. Success comes by helping people along the way and people helping you along the way. So it's a twofold thing, more or less to say. I think about, like, for instance, like for me, the guy who helped me get started in strength and conditioning. You never want to burn a bridge with people who help you along the way, because you never know how life can change. And some of us may fall and hit rock bottom. You never know what life's going to present you. But what's critical is that whoever God brings into your life and whoever He puts in your life to help you along the way, it's critical that you serve that person wholeheartedly. I've seen people go into positions to where they think they know more than the supervisor. Even though you may not agree with that supervisor is there for a reason, because they've done what it takes to get there. And you're not there yet. That's why you're not in that position. So the best thing you can do is serve that supervisor and learn from that supervisor the pros and cons, what you do and don't like about that supervisor. So when your time comes, you can be a better supervisor than the one you're serving right now. Don't try to bad talk that supervisor or anything like that, because, like I said, I think about like the guy who helped me get started in strength and conditioning. That was 20 years ago when I was at UT. Fast forward, it's the same guy who's now a head strength and conditioning coach for an NFL team. That's the same guy that helped me get my foot in the door at the NFL. The first thing that came to my mind was like, what if I was like a jerk or I badmouthed this guy 20 years ago and I left a bad taste in his mouth 20 years ago. And then my resume comes on his desk 20 years later. He's gonna be like, I don't want to deal with that guy. I remember him. He's gonna remember me from 20 years ago. Even though I may have changed, his last impression that he had of me was what he had of me from 20 years ago. So I think, like, with that being said, like, success comes by treating people right along the way who've helped you, regardless of how you feel about them or how you feel that they're running their organizations and X, Y, and Z. Like you're put there in that position wherever you at, whether you're a head guy or an assistant guy or you the janitor. If you the janitor, clean those bathrooms the best that you can. That's how you get elevated. You know what I mean? You're there for a purpose, and you're there to help better what somebody else has already laid the foundation for. So, anybody else want to touch on another point before I go on to something else I want to touch on?
Yeah, just real quick, you had mentioned that one thing I will say from personal experience that I've noticed about people who are successful, it was their service. Whether it most people who were really good in their service, whether it was they were a subordinate, whether they were some type of underling under the supervisor, they were a good worker, and that led them to be a good supervisor. How many times in your life have you seen people? Man, they weren't good at just the standard portion of the job. Then they got promoted or they got elevated. Man, and they were terrible, right? But that
Yep.
comes from a place where you weren't very good at the initial service. So I know you're not going to be good at leading people. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Mac, if you want to touch on anything else regarding that success portion.
For me, man, it's just like every position given, good or bad, is a setup for what's next. And
Yeah.
you know, and I understand that completely from my situation, and I know you understand that completely from your situation too, which we've talked about, and most likely probably going to end up sharing on a podcast. But I think
Sure.
like
For sure.
it's important to have the right mindset, whether in good positions, bad positions, man, because it's all set up for you, man, like for what's next, and you
Yeah.
can you can attain that success that we all want by just having a right mindset, man. And if you don't, man, like you can't see the hidden goal in those rough situations that we encounter sometimes, and that's a trained mindset that you have to always practice every single day. You know what I'm saying? Because we're gonna always have hard times, man. I don't care who you are, what level of success you at. Like, you're gonna achieve it, and then something bad gonna happen, and it's like, okay, how you gonna pivot? How you gonna adjust? You know what I'm saying? So you can keep
Yeah.
going. So for me, it's
Yep.
like just taking the time to just sit back and analyze. Like, okay, I'm in this situation right now, man. What I need to learn from it, so I could push forward and get to the next level. You ain't got time to like, sit down and woe is me and man, like he got this or she got that. Like, nah, man, like what's there for you right now that you can learn so you can keep moving to the next step,
Yeah.
attain that goal that you're trying to achieve, man. So for me, just having the right mindset, man, at all times, man, no matter what.
Yeah. Now you hit on, man, y'all know you hit on something else again. Like for me, I don't know, like I could probably speak on the same thing, but for me, to me, that seems to be the process. Is you achieve something, then something bad happens, and then you relearn yourself again, having to overcome. It's like that's always the continuous process. I don't care where I've been at, what I've done. It seems like that's been a continuous process of success. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but if that's the same thing, feel free to touch on that.
Well, I think what that is. I think I touched on it earlier today when I was able to talk to one on the phone. Is so in any time you do largely what's right. Nobody's perfect. We've all made mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. But when you believe in a higher power, you believe in the blessings of God, and you generally, wholeheartedly, are trying to go about things the right way. And when you're trying to elevate and build yourself, you're not stepping on anyone else to achieve those goals, right? You're just working hard and you're trying to figure it out. And along the way, and something happened to you that's negative, that kind of brings you down or pulls you back, right? What generally ends up happening, because you went about it the right way, because you didn't step on anybody, because you didn't mistreat anybody, to get that elevation, that God will inadvertently put you back on the course that you were already on, and in a way leapfrog you out of a situation that you didn't need to be in anyway.
Yep. Man, you're right. We're talking about it earlier. Like he meaning God will, if he wants you out of a situation that he's seeing that it's causing you physically stressed, mentally stressed, you're just not happy with the overall situation, he will force you out of a place to get you into a better place. We'll talk about that later on one of these later episodes of the podcast. But see, like what we're talking about is the logistics of what this podcast is about. Fitness. When we mean fitness, we mean not only physical fitness, but mental fitness, spiritual fitness, nutrition, all that stuff that we kind of talked about relates to fitness. Same thing with finances, talk about real estate, investments, things like that, various things of finances and faith. Faith is just what we're talking about like right now, just overcoming things, hearing people, ourselves, about different life stories, testimonies that they've overcome, struggles, and just finding something that people can share and help them overcome and face their life situations better. All this stuff that we're talking about, this is just a little taste of what you guys are going to hear in other episodes and of this jam session. You know, y'all got anything else you want to say to the crowd real quick?
Nah, man. You'll find along the journey of the jam session, man. You'll see my personality is, I'm a little quirky. I crack jokes. They might not always be funny, but they funny to me. I kind of me and Dewan again. You'll see we kind of got our own language. We'll make reference to stuff, and we'll try to explain it where it makes sense to you all. But outside of that, man, I'm just excited for the future, and my whole hope to this is that we're able to bring something to people, right, that gets them away from the typical, you know what I mean? But at the
Yeah.
same time, we are all three grown men. We're three black men here in America. We will have our disagreements. We won't agree on everything, right? We
Right.
have ideologies and different nuances about ourselves that we won't agree on, but we can be gentlemen enough to disagree. I've had that. I've had those instances with myself, dealing with different people, business endeavors, and people I seek to work with. We just had differences that just weren't going to align to move forward, and that's okay. So that's just all I've got to say. I look forward, like I said, working with Mac, working with Juan, and giving y'all some real jam. You know what I'm saying?
What you look like? We pretty. I see you got the Ravens Cup too.
Yeah,
Look, you see who I got over here.
we represent, baby. Kings of the North.
Okay.
Kings of the North.
Back to back state. Mac, what you got for us last?
Yeah, man. Just along the lines of what's already been said, man. Just I'm looking forward to seeing what's next with this podcast. We've been talking about it for a long time. It's the time to do work, man. The time is now, man. So, yeah, we gonna try our hardest, represent well, man, and share, what's needed, man. Try to be something different if we can, man.
That's right. Yeah, man, and like these two gentlemen said, we're gonna work our way to being one of the best podcasts out there. Like you said, we three different men, fathers, African American men at that, and we, like you said, we're not gonna always agree upon things, but that's what makes a good show. If we all agreed on everything, it'd be boring. So we're gonna have, like I said, we're gonna have some good shows. We're gonna have some good guests on, some good topics. We're gonna keep real topics that people don't really want to talk about, but we're going to talk about it here on this show. We hope y'all enjoyed the jam session. This is just the intro of just who we are, what the jam session is about. You can find us on all social media platforms in the link below. Until the next time, stay fit, fix your finances, and keep the faith. Right?